manager's report.
I'll have you know there are people at home that have been waiting for this all evening, so.
Don't want to disappoint them.
Included in your packet this evening is correspondence is a letter that was addressed to the board from a resident describing concerns about motorbikes and dirt bikes with a specific focus on Middlesex Road. The letter, on top of requesting action by the town, specifically requested that be read into the record, which is the only reason I'm addressing it in my town manager's report. It specifically requests that the town ban motorbikes and dirt bikes on Middlesex Road. When we received the letter, I had a conversation with Chief Woods as well as with town council. Those types of recreational vehicles are already prohibited under current state law, and the Tyngsborough Police Department already enforces that provision of law when they're able to. One of the things that we've seen, not so much in Tyngsborough, though it certainly bleeds over, but it happens a Lowell all the time, when you have large groups of people on, even if it's motorcycles, which are authorized on the road, but oftentimes it's not, it's scooters, mopeds, dirt bikes. If you have one police vehicle and 7 or 8 of these motorcycles, you often make the situation far more dangerous if the officer attempts to pursue them. As dangerous as it is, them cruising in large crowds, and I've seen it in Lowell where they're not staying in one lane, they're weaving around, it becomes much more dangerous if you have an officer pursuing them. Speeds become out of control. And so the Lowell Police Department, which is where a lot of these problems stem from, has done a lot around confiscating these types of vehicles. And certainly, we have stopped these vehicles when we can. But the chief wanted me to just clarify that, it is incredibly difficult for one officer in one vehicle to pursue 2, 3, 4, sometimes you have groups of 7 or 8. They can get into spaces that a cruiser can't. And generally, when they reach particularly high speeds, not only is it incredibly dangerous for the person on the motorcycle, there are pedestrians in many of these neighborhoods, there are vehicles coming out. So it is already illegal. The police chief is part of a regional task force that's working on a broader strategy to address them. It's not unique to Tyngsborough. And so the resident requested that we'll follow up with that resident with a letter just explaining everything and contact information for the police chief. But people are encouraged, if they see large groups operating like this, to report it. There are some mitigation techniques the police can use to keep intersections clear so that there's not accidents. But, it's not for a lack of trying. It's just incredibly difficult for one police vehicle to stop several motorcycles. I wanted to congratulate all of our Tyngsborough residents that will graduate this year, especially students at Tyngsborough High, Innovation, and the Academy of Notre Dame, as well as Greater Lowell. And I look forward to celebrating the Tyngsborough High graduates this Friday evening. As many of you know, National Grid has been in town for several weeks now working on pruning and tree clearance to better prevent outages and storm damage. To date, they have approximately 2 weeks of work left on the east side of town for their pruning efforts. This work is largely concentrated in the Long Pond neighborhood. This is when they're trimming branches that are uncomfortably close or in even some cases bleeding through electric lines. On the tree removal side, which is where they're removing full trees that pose a risk to larger infrastructure that they own, they're approximately 90% complete on the west side of town. They've only got a couple of days left over here, and they're 60% complete on the other side. The whole point of this, and National Grid was here at the end of last year, talking about this, is to really minimize where they can the impacts of significant storms so that you don't have outages as frequently. I wanted to give a shout out to a local business, Royalty Masonry, who donated their time and labor to fix a damaged section of the elementary school over the winter. The town happened to have excess materials from the original elementary school, believe it or not, and so they used that and donated their time to get the job done, so thank you to them. At the recommendation of Chief Russell, I've promoted firefighter Tom Jeffroy to the rank of lieutenant with the Tyngsborough Fire Department effective today. Lieutenant Jeffroy is a certified fire officer, has been a firefighter EMT with the Tyngsborough Fire Department for 10 years, and recently became a certified hazmat technician. We will conduct a formal promotional ceremony ahead of your next meeting on June 16th. I'm sad to share that Officer Travis McMurdo has resigned from his position with the Tyngsborough Police Department and accepted a position with a larger community. Officer McMurdo was an incredible addition to the department and served the town with pride and distinction, and we thank him for his service. In the interest of wasting no time, I'm happy to share that at the recommendation of Chief Woods, I've appointed Brian Walker to the position of police officer. That appointment is contingent on a successful background check and completion of the police academy. He has extensive training in the field and has even completed, he's a firefighter paramedic currently with the Sandwich Fire Department. He has extensive training in the field and has even completed his Fire Officer 1 and Fire Instructor 1 training, as well as many other certifications in technical operations. While certainly he's got more of a fire experience, these skills will translate well into his new role as a police officer. And on that same front, I'm happy to share that Officer Jason Rubino has successfully completed his field training officer program and will now begin patrol as a full officer on solo shifts. He will serve on the evening shift. The Community Preservation Committee met 2 weeks ago and approved the use of $22,300 in administrative expenses from the CPC fund to hire Gale Associates to perform an architectural assessment of the Winslow School exterior to better understand the work required and costs associated with a historical commission request to utilize $1.2 million of the previously appropriated funding to restore the entire exterior of the Winslow School. For those that aren't familiar, town meeting in May of 2023 approved $1.5 million to demolish the additions on the Winslow School, restore the outside of the original schoolhouse, and then move the Winslow School further up on the site and tilt it to face the Tyngsborough Bridge. Last fall, we conducted the full design of that project, and the costs were far too prohibitive. We were about $900,000 shy. That money has been sitting unappropriated because once it's appropriated by town meeting, it can only be reappropriated by a subsequent town meeting vote. The Historical Commission back in March made a request to the CPC that they bring forward to town meeting a request to reallocate the balance, I think it's $1.29 million, and simply just restore the entire outside of the Winslow School. The CPC felt like they didn't have enough information to make that decision. Are there things that we can't see from the outside? Is the cost still prohibitive? And so before the CPC decides whether or not to bring that back to town meeting for consideration, they've authorized the use of these funds to do a full assessment. This will look at what type of work will need to be done, and once they've developed a full scope of work to simply restore the exterior, this doesn't touch the inside, they'll put together an order of cost magnitude so that we can figure out exactly what the cost will be. If that comes in and the CPC supports it, it will then have to appear on a future town meeting warrant for residents to decide. Bids were open today for the demo and abatement of the former Council on Aging building at 180 Lakeview Ave. That low bid came in at $118,000, which is just about $45,000 shy of the available appropriation. I was not here when the original funding proposal was put in place, but that difference is largely a result of law changes here in Massachusetts last year that made the process of abating public buildings more arduous. So things that were previously not considered hazardous or didn't have to be removed of in the same nature that they do now, that drove up the cost quite a bit. What I will likely do is at your meeting on June 16th, ask you to reallocate a portion of previously allocated ARPA funds to cover this. The building is not, you can't habit the building. It is completely destroyed due to water damage. We've damaged a lot of the building to do the testing to determine what needs to be removed and abated. And so we could just sit on this and try to rebid it when more money is available, but that cost is going to continue to increase. That 118 was substantially lower than the remaining bids that we received, so we know it's a good price. We collected all of our ARPA funds through the lost revenue portion. Any municipality that got less than $10 million could simply claim it as lost revenue. And so a lot of the regulations around ARPA, particularly that you have to have it earmarked for a specific project by December of 2024, those don't apply to us because we did earmark it for lost revenue. And the funds are still available. So I'll have more at your meeting on June 16th, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we opened the bids. We have one very qualified bidder. 118, although higher than we expected, is a good price compared to what the other ones were. And then just a few reminders about upcoming events. Join us on Wednesday, June 4th at the Center for Active Living for Bingo Night. Doors open at 5:30 and the game starts promptly at 6:30. The Recreation Committee will host a grand opening of Ironwood Park this Saturday, June 7th. It's going to be held in conjunction with the annual Health and Safety Fair. Begins at 10 a.m. and runs through 4 p.m. On Friday, June 20th, we'll host a 10-year anniversary gathering at the Center for Active Living to celebrate 10 years of the Council on Aging operating out of 169 Westford Road. At this program, we'll also do a formal dedication ceremony to commemorate the name change to the Center for Active Living. That'll begin at 11 a.m. And then finally, the Tyngsborough Public Library will host a kickoff party for their 2025 summer reading program on Saturday, June 21st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. here in the library. You can learn more about the event and their summer reading program by visiting their website, tinglib.org. That's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will open up to questions. Select Person Cohen.
Oh, no questions, just the, the upcoming events. I keep hearing from residents. We have so many events with residents that do want to attend particular things. There always seems to be something going on in Tyngsborough. The one I will definitely be at is the Recreation Committee will host the opening of the Ironwood Park. Just to let everybody know, the contractor's been working very diligently on that. For the past month, people have been walking the trail quite a bit. I saw 8 cars there one day, so a lot of people are walking the trail. And, I've seen people playing basketball, volleyball, disc golf, and they just started playing pickleball. So, as you go by, you can see it's open. I'm very excited to share this and for the grand opening and explain everything to the residents, what was there. This is a phenomenal venue that we have, and more activities than anywhere else I've seen anywhere in the state for an outdoor park. So please put it on your calendar. June 7th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thank you.
Selectperson Gilfus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colin, I'm just really grateful that you broke this down the way that you did, especially the first part about the dirt bikes. It didn't occur to me what you described about, if it's one officer, you're not going to break up a group of folks, and that would be more dangerous. Living on Pumpkin Circle, which is adjacent to Middlesex, I hope that at some point we can petition the state to make the speed limit lower there, because it being 45 in what is a really densely populated residential area is crazy. People do drive like maniacs. I wouldn't say that I've really noticed anything unusual about like motorbikes, dirt bikes, that if you had asked the problem, I would have never considered that. But certainly I think there is an area of opportunity with Middlesex to make that safer for folks. So more on that. And yeah, I think I'm hyper aware of the graduations because of tonight's presentation. I also am looking forward to being with the Tyngsborough High graduates on Friday. But I do hope that in the future we can try to be more involved and connected with the other schools that are in town. And, obviously if they fall on the same night, that's not ideal, but just trying to make an effort to be represented there also, because they're important to us. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Selectperson Eldridge.
I wasn't going to say anything, but Select Person Gilfus raised another item.
Weren't going to say anything?
No, I wasn't. I thought it was a great update. No, but just relative to Middlesex Road, I would be curious. We must have some stats on that, but I've been seeing stuff online, people talking about the northern part near there. I'd like to see perhaps if we could get some numbers from the chief and public safety to understand.
How often they're called over there.
Yeah, what are the accidents? Is it higher than what we would typically see for the volume there? I'm obviously, we're limited as to what we can do, but I think that we can either, if it's really bad, we should give it some additional attention. If it's, maybe it's not as bad as everybody says, and we could at least, I'm data driven, so I look at it and say, does the data push us towards looking at some other things? So maybe we can have that in a future meeting.
Absolutely.
I mean, I personally have witnessed 2 accidents at the corner of Pumpkin and Middlesex in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So
My guess, and I try not to guess on it, my guess is there is issues with safety, and I know that even on the northern side, I'd love to get the state to put in like a lane just for the left turns, get an additional lane to look at different ways. But I'll let the DPW and public safety folks and Mass DOT figure out a way to do that, but be interested to see what the numbers are.
And I do think that the tree clearing at least has contributed to the problem at Pumpkin and Middlesex, because there was a blind spot and they have pruned back a lot of the trees. So going back to your report, Colin, I'm really grateful for National Grid taking that work and how much they've done, because it really, has made a tremendous difference. When you're driving around town, you can see how far back the pruning is, and it's really nice.
Thank you. Selectperson Coughlin.
Yeah, I was particularly interested when I read your report about the dirt bikes. I live on Emerald Street, and we have a lot of dirt bikes that just keep going up and down, up and down. Other than driving the dog crazy, there's not really any, like, public issue, but, like, on Middlesex, I would think that that would be pretty, you know, something to think about. So is the issue that they're going to wait till the chief attends to see how other communities are doing it, or are they gonna do something about it now?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of the approach is regional, particularly for us because we're typically a cut through from Lowell into Nashua.
Yeah,
The biggest solution, and what every city and town is trying to do, is to confiscate these and get them off of the road. You see it constantly. The Boston police are constantly posting about, you know, seizing 40 of these recreational vehicles. There's a two-pronged approach that we're doing currently. We get every year 2 or 3 enhanced traffic safety grants from the state, which pay overtime to put extra cruisers on the road. You know, at any given time in Tyngsborough, due to our current staffing levels, which are normal, we haven't cut anything, you only have so many marked Tyngsborough police cruisers covering a wide swath of land. When we get these enhancement grants, you'll often see them, you know, right on the side of the road on Middlesex in front of the new real estate office, across from Roller Kingdom. Those types of efforts have been relatively successful in deterring the action. Where there's a serious problem is, what do you do when you have a group actively flying up Middlesex Road? 1 or 2 cruisers can't stop all 8, but what they are able to do is position themselves, you know, if they get a call from Chelmsford that there's a group coming into Tyngsborough, they can get to, like, the intersection with Locust and stop cross traffic to make sure that some innocent person trying to take a left there, because that light is very limited on how fast you can take a left, isn't caught in it. The regional group is working on how do you crack down on them when they're not on the road, so catching them before they leave a residential property or a commercial property, or when they get to a destination. I know there's been a couple calls at the Pheasant Lane Mall where, like, they're rallying there, essentially, for lack of a better term, dealing with the issue when they're not on the bikes and can't race away, but largely it's a cat and mouse game currently.
got it, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. I have two observations. One, in looking at your report, Colin, we have to be one of the very few towns in the state that has 4 high schools, right? I mean, here's sleepy Tyngsborough, and we've got our Tyngsborough Public School, we've got the Innovation, we've got a parochial school. We got, it's pretty impressive that we have 4 high schools in our town. I will make a comment on the tree pruning by National Grid. They got a little bit aggressive at times in some of the neighborhoods, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get some not-so-happy residents calling them about what shape they left the trees in, albeit, yes, their branches have been removed from the wires, but the tree is all but dead at this point, or is now in danger of being so unbalanced that it's going to fall over in a heavy wind. So they should not be surprised if they get some calls to come back and fix what they've done.
And I will say that our office has probably gotten 1 or 2 calls from residents, and Curtis, who this board has met, he's our municipal rep, has been great helping connect them. Obviously, once the tree is gone or half gone, there's, you know, in terms of that tree, there's a little they can do. But we have directed, I think, probably 2 residents to Curtis. You never get the end result you want, but I think Curtis has been helpful in at least getting some sort of mitigation in place.
Yeah, right. You're not going to get the result that the homeowner wants. I just don't want them to leave a tree in a position that it's even more unstable now than it was before, and causes a future problem. But thank you for your report. It's always amazing. And I echo what Mr. Cohane said. There are so many things going on in this town. It's amazing. So if you're not busy doing something, it's because you're trying. Right? There's lots going on. So thank you very much.